Hi guys, welcome to this edition of Phyrefli's Video Digest. As always, thank you very much for listening in, and thank you very much for watching. Now, as you've no doubt noticed, the background video that's playing at the moment is from Blacklight Retribution, which is a free-to-play game that's just entered open beta. Although this edition of the digest is all about the Battlefield franchise, I'm going to let that video play in the background for a while. And there's a very specific reason for that, which I'll mention right at the very end of the video. See if you can figure it out for yourself in the meantime. The game does have a few glitches. It is still in open beta, and there's one of them you can see on the screen at the moment where every single server has got the exact same ping. It does make it rather fun choosing which server to go into. However, like I said, I'll come back to Blacklight Retribution afterwards, and I'll just have the UI running in the background so you can just get a taste and a flavour for that game. And then at the end of the video I'll mention the exact reason why I put it there on a Battlefield video. There's really only one thing that I want to talk about today, and that is the death of Battlefield. That sounds pretty dramatic, but it is something which is being discussed quite a bit, especially in Mordor. And for some reason the initial forum thread on this was actually closed by Canuck. No idea why, but hey ho. Now, is Battlefield dying? If it is dying, why is it dying? It's hard to find stats on the historical number of players that are playing the game at the moment. About the best I've been able to find is the past month, and that's only on Xfire. Now that means obviously just PC gamers and those that have got Xfire, but even so, that's showing a drop in numbers over February. You do expect to a certain degree a drop once the game's been released and the initial euphoria has worn off, but it feels, especially from my own personal anecdotal evidence, that a lot less people are playing the game than they used to. Now I have to be honest, I still play every week, but the principal reason for that, I think, is that I play in the Battlefield 3 Tournament.com tourney every Sunday, so I always make sure that I get an hour or two on Saturday just to practice. But I'll tell you one thing, when 2142 came out, I didn't play another game for the best part of a year, and yet BF3's only been out, what, 4 months now I think, heading up towards 5 months? And yet I've been playing Blacklight Retribution, Tribes Ascend, and a few other free-to-play games as well. So it's definite that Battlefield 3 is not holding my attention as much as earlier games, even BC2 did. Although I do think that BC2 enjoyed a certain fanbase and a certain euphoria, simply because of the fact there hadn't been a new Battlefield game for such a long time. Now the second thing which has brought this up in my head is a book I'm reading at the moment, which is all about visionary companies. What has a visionary company got to do with a game that we play online? Well, it's not necessarily the visionary company itself, but the fact that a visionary company holds to a core set of values. What did Battlefield 1942 and Battlefield 2 and the earlier Battlefield games hold to? A core set of values. Vehicular combat, combined arms, teamwork, all those kinds of things. Battlefield 2 and 2142 built on the success of 1942 in Vietnam. And they honed the teamwork aspect of things so that you actually had a fantastic gaming experience. You could work together with people, squad VoIP and all of that stuff. But then for some reason DICE and EA chose to take out an awful lot of those features from Battlefield 3. So they've taken out a lot of the core values that made the Battlefield franchise what it is today, and interested people like myself, and I would imagine you if you're actually listening or watching to this video. And they removed it. Why? Surely if you've got a, quote, true successor, unquote, to a game, then you're going to have the same items that you had in the previous games. You're going to make them better. You're going to add some new features, but most of all, you're going to keep the features that made the game in the first place. Why would you remove them? Now, the way, as I've mentioned in earlier videos, that you and I look at the success of a game and EA DICE look at the success of a game are different things. For EA DICE, and to be fair, they are a company, The one thing they look at is money. It's as simple as that. A great game or great fan feedback doesn't pay your salaries, doesn't pay for your kids, doesn't put food on the table. Money does. Money translates into salaries, salaries translate into jobs. So it's important to remember that EA DICE look at this from a different point of view that we do. And I would also like to point out as well that although I'm definitely not a DICE fanboy, I definitely am pro DICE and pro Zinto. Now that may sound a bit strange, but I've dealt with Zinto on many occasions on a one-to-one basis. I've always found the guy to be great. Quick, responsive, courteous, helpful. Maybe it's a bit unusual, maybe I'm just lucky, but as I say, my personal experience with Zinto has always been first class. I think he's doing a good job. Now keep what I've just said in mind as I go further into this, because I do genuinely think that DICE have missed a trick here. The Battlefield franchise occupies a space roughly between COD on the left hand side, which is a very, very simple gameplay wise game, and Armour on the other hand, which is a very complex game. You can jump into the Battlefield franchise, you can get your teamwork fix, you can have relatively big maps, lots of vehicles, without having to spend 6 hours going through training and learning 45 different key combinations as you do in Armour. Now I tried Modern Warfare 3 a few weekends ago when it was on Steam. And I mean, you can tell initially, I'm not a particularly big fan of COD, but the gameplay on that was thin. It was shallow. There was not a lot to it, but it was satisfying, which I found rather strange. The weaponry actually felt pretty good. I wasn't particularly good at the game, I'm not saying that I enjoyed it that much, but what I did notice is everything worked fast, the gameplay was fairly easy to get into, and it didn't have what appealed to me as a gamer, which is that teamwork aspect of a squad or a team working towards something where you've got vehicles going in, you've got the air support going in, people working together, huge 64-player maps. That's what appeals to me with Battlefield, and for some reason DICE have taken that away. If you're going to develop a game, then surely you should keep the bit that works and simply hone that, make it better, add new bits. And for some reason what DICE have decided to do is strip that away to appeal to COD gamers. You can appeal to COD gamers as much as you like, but they're already playing COD. You're not going to bring them over unless you give them COD. And since Battlefield is something different, what DICE needs to be doing is to be concentrating on the players that like the Battlefield gameplay and make that better. Yes, by all means make it more accessible, make it easier to learn, but don't strip away the core values that have made the game what it is, because not only do you alienate the player base that you already have, but you're not going to get the player base that you're going for because you're not giving them what they want either. You're caught in a trap where you're never going to win, and you're not going to kick COD off by being better than COD, because COD is great at what it does. Like it or not, you can't argue the fact that it does what it does very well. So, DICE, I've looked at the patch notes, there's a lot of weaponry tweaks and other things in there, but there's nothing fundamental to the gameplay. Nothing that I can see, nothing that's going to bring that teamwork back. Now, as we all know, the number of players will increase after the patch, and a lot of us, for probably a few weeks afterwards, will be going, yay, DICE have finally got it right, etc, etc, etc. But the bottom line is, it's not going to hold our interest for more than a few more weeks or a few more months. Those players that have come back will gradually dissipate, go to different games, perhaps like Blacklight Retribution, which is still playing in the background here, and then that will be it. Now, one reason why I think the DICE aren't too concerned about this is that their timescale for bringing out new games is much shorter. There was, 6 years between BF2 and 3. There's probably going to be no more than 3, at the most 4, between BF3 and BF4. And I would imagine either this year, possibly next, or possibly this year, we'll get 2143. Again, that's a game that I would drool over. But I'm pretty darn sure they're going to strip out the team play elements that made me like the game, and just leave the stuff that's in BF3. So that is my opinion on the death of Battlefield. I don't think it's going to die, in all honesty, because there's still going to be players that want to play it. Players like me, I will almost definitely buy Battlefield 4 unless it's completely pants. But by the same token, if Battlefield 4 is not an absolutely cracking game and doesn't bring back those team play elements, I won't be buying Battlefield 5. And I don't think we're going to see the numbers back up anywhere near November or even December's numbers once the patch comes out. And the simple reason for that is that DICE have lost their core values. They've lost those values that made the Battlefield series great, and they've replaced them by dumbing down the game. It's not a good corporate strategy, it's not a good gaming strategy. So DICE, if you listen to Mordor, if you listen to Blog, if you listen to the players who've been around for a while, and even the newer players, you're not going to compete against COD, because unless you produce literally another COD. Stick to your niche, keep the core values that made the Battlefield series great, improve on them, and you'll find that you do better. Now, I'm going to leave the Blacklight Retribution video running. It's only got a few more minutes, and it will go through some more of the UI. Now, the reason why I put this up is to actually show you what a free game can do. This game, although it's only at a max 8v8, it's got capture the flag, it's got domination, which in their terms is basically you capture and hold 3 points like Conquest. It's got several other game modes, but it also has, as you can see at the moment now, the social menu. You can do things such as mail and all the rest of it to your friends, create a clan. You can use Squad VoIP, believe it or not, on a free game. Now, 10 years ago, VoIP in a game was something which was new, but something which was rapidly adopted by many games. And again, it just seems strange why DICE would take something like that out of a game. As you can see, there's lots of different social aspects to it, all built into the game. It can't be that hard if a free game can do all of this. So, come on DICE, get your act together, guys. Bring us back the Battlefield that we all loved. We'll give you hugs and kisses if you want, but we just want the gameplay that we all fell in love with and we all spent hundreds of hours playing in the older games. Apply that. You're not going to do it with Battlefield 3, but do it with 2143 and Battlefield 4, and you'll see gamers like myself coming back and saying, well done guys, you nailed it. As always, thanks for listening. It was a bit of a rant this time, and I apologise if it bored anybody, but I just had to get that off my system. If you liked it, please like the video. If you liked it a lot, please sub my channel. And until next time, as always, thank you very much, and take care.